Hello and welcome to a very romantic special episode of Chats.
Row.
Hubba hubba.
My love language is Three Stooges.
Same. If you can't tell, I'm joined by the love of my life when it's not Magellan. I'm joined by Pat from the Brothers of Infinite War.
Hello. Today is the Brothers of Infinite Love.
Aw, we're the Brothers of Infinite Love. Oh.
Yeah, one day a year. Then the war starts.
So this is our special Valentine's Day episode. Pat and I are buds thanks to the Chats community. You have been on since Chatsalon 5 at least, and have been a great friend and community member. And you reached out to me, right? And you were like, "Hey, I love this, by the way, folks. Like, if you're a regular Chats person, go ahead."
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. It was like, wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be fun to put something up for Valentine's Day?
It's just you and I. You who is in a committed relationship, and me who is question mark. I don't like to reveal details of my personal life to people, unless I have to.
Right.
Unless it's fun for a bit.
Yeah, like if you're describing it as like Baldur's Gate talent picks, like how far in the talent tree are you? I don't know.
Yeah, that's way more fun. Or like in Simpsons references, which we just spent like an hour talking about. So
yeah.
In classical Chats fashion, the pre-pod was very extended. People are always like, "Why do you guys release the pre-pod?" That's basically what Chats Nights is pre-pod, but pre-pod's a lot stupider because it's usually Magellan doing. I'm sorry to make fun of him. He like does vocal stems for like 5 minutes, and he'll just like sing a song, and I'll be like, "All right, we're done. Let's stop singing," and he'll just keep singing, and I have to like, or we like make
the biggest thing that happened in the pre-roll. The biggest happening in the pre-roll was Napoleon Dynamite's grandmother was like, "Alan, make yourself a quesadilla."
Come on. Gosh, I wonder if that movie holds up. I don't know. I truly don't.
I think it does. I think it does, but I think you have to have like a mindset for that humor.
Yeah, going to it the right.
I think because it
it
doesn't exist in a reality. Not unlike Red Dwarf.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't want to drop your beautiful segue. I was just gonna say quickly. I think most people I know who like Jared Hess, director of Napoleon Dynamite, prefer either Nacho Libre if you're younger or Gentlemen Broncos if you're older. Is my
I haven't seen Gentlemen Broncos, but I did watch Nacho Libre, and I still like Napoleon more.
Gentlemen Broncos has my fucking favorite actor, Michael Angarano, and he just like started dating someone or got married to somebody, and I was like, what do I know Michael Angarano from? First of all, he was the main guy in Sky High, but more importantly, he's young William in Almost Famous, which I often cite as my favorite film of all time. So he was a little like a fucking little elementary school kid, and now he's a big boy actor.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, he was in Oppenheimer. Wow, dude has been in a lot of stuff. He was. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are just in Oppenheimer. Yeah, he's Robert Serber, if that helps at all, a physicist.
No.
Yeah.
What? No.
But speaking of science fiction, something that Pat and I enjoy quite a bit.
Science Gone Wrong.
Something else that we enjoy is Red Dwarf. Pat, I've never actually asked you this question, but what is your history with Red Dwarf?
Red Dwarf was of those VHS tapes. I don't know if cassette tapes that my brother and I would watch on loop. It was like this prize because this is back when finding something from the BBC on physical media was difficult because they had different formats, right? So it was. I think it was. I'm imagining the spine of the VHS, and I think it said PBS on it. So it was like a BBC before BBC America,
released by PBS,
a BBC PBS release, kind of like what's it like a masterpiece theater, but they would never call it that, even though I think it is a masterpiece. But especially for the longest time, we had this series, which Camille's from, series 4 and series 5, I believe, maybe series 3. We had those on VHS for a very long time, and eventually Nick got more of the copies on VHS. Wow. And I don't know what happened to them because then Nick got them on DVD, and then Nick got them for me on DVD. So,
what a hero!
But this season and series 3, 4, and 5 I've watched on loop over and over again. We bring it to the cottage. It would just be something you put on. It was great. but it's like Simpsons. It's something that we quote all the time. Like I'm gonna tell the great joke that Nick loves was it's not from this episode, but from the Terraform episode where they all have to tell Rimmer how much they love him to save the day. And there was a family dinner where my brother had a particularly rough day at school, and after he explained it, my mom, my dad, and my sister, they're all like, "Oh no, Nick, no, it's okay, no," and they're being really supportive, like a good family. Mm-hmm. And Nick looks right at me like, "Your turn," and I was like, "Nick, it's true. They really do care about you." and and you know what? From me, he would never have taken anything else without, like, he's like, "That's what I needed to hear. I needed to hear, like, the thing that I would say to you," because he would have totally done that to me. But it's like The Simpsons that my brother and I quote Red Dwarf way too much that other people in the room don't know what the heck we're talking about anymore.
Right. You're speaking your own little language.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which is British television.
British television, yeah. I think we had, like, there's other British shows like Fawlty Towers and Father Ted, Mr. Bean. Those are like the big ones in our house. But Red Dwarf was the one that, like, it kind of pushed my sister and my mom out because my sister got sick of it and my mom couldn't stand it. So it was the boys in their silly sci-fi British sitcom.
Boys from the Dwarf!
Boys from the Dwarf! But we also like huge Hitchhiker's Guide fans, and this is like basically the closest you can get really to like a Hitchhiker's sitcom.
True, that's a really good point.
Even to the point where like the 4 books that exist for Red Dwarf are very much like Hitchhikers, like Terry Pratchett, Douglas Adams style, bit of Neil Gaiman style to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so a big part of my childhood for sure, and I've kept it alive in my heart.
And as for me, it's Valentine's Day, so we're going to talk about Camille, which is series 4, episode 1, but just briefly. I had no experience with Red Dwarf for years. I had kind of heard tales of it and it wasn't easy to access for a while. Nowadays it's on Tubi in the United States, and it's like in other places. I think on BritBox they have all of it.
Yeah.
And I had never been in like a rush to watch it because I didn't know anyone that was even a big fan. Even my British friends were like, yeah, some of us liked it. And maybe it doesn't hold up so well. And then 2020 comes by, and I had this coworker who, if you're listening to this, Jay, hello, I miss you, and we should talk soon or hang out. And she was obsessed with Red Dwarf, and it's COVID, like early COVID. And so once they put us back in the office, nobody was coming in to pick up security badges. That's what we did for work. So we had so much free time in this big empty office. I'm going there 8 hours a day. She brings in first, I think, at least 6 seasons. Our series and on DVD.
Is it the big box? Is it the big?
Yeah, big box.
Yeah, so I think that's up to season 8. I think it's series 8, yeah.
And she would stash that in a drawer, and we would just like put it on one of our computers and like watch when it got quiet, like after 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and it was kind of like a thing to look forward to in a really bad time. And watching it with a fan who would be like, "Oh, this episode's gonna be really great. This episode introduces a new character." Like, it was such a nice experience that like I'll never be able to really recreate. And I really kind of like fell in love with it. I know that it's like it's a bunch of guys doing British humor, but like I'm obsessed with the world building of Red Dwarf. I've always thought that like the way that they establish like why these guys are on the Red Dwarf, what their jobs are, what the rest of the world thinks of them, why they were assigned here, and all that stuff is like really, really well done and like subtle. Underneath a really solid, well-written, well-acted sitcom, like a classic, situational comedy in a interesting sci-fi world.
It's absolutely, I was to say absolutely like the typical sitcom, but with the sci-fi layer on top of it. Like it's the odd couple, but it's you have your hologram dead roommate is torturing you, and you're the only one.
Right, your hologram dead roommate, freaking Dave Rimmer. I always get them mixed up. Rimmer's the hologram.
That's Arnie.
Arnie. You got Rimmer. You've got Craig Charles as Dave Lister, the sort of rebel vagabond. He's like a bit of a bum that he calls himself. He likes Indian food, especially chicken vindaloo. I remember that being a thing. And then you've got Cat, who is a cat that is a person. Or is like a cat and a person's DNA fused or something? Or no, it's an offspring of the evolution.
Cat. It's just if cats were left for 2 million years on a ship with a bit of radiation, then they would evolve into humanoids. And he just, happens to act like every cat you have, where they're obsessed with how they look, grooming, and
yeah. What if a cat was a person?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Crichton, the love of my life. Everybody is a little gay coded on this show, but Crichton is my fave because he's just this. Data walked so that Crichton could run. I guess that actually no, that timing works. They were contemporaneous.
Yeah, but Crichton would run with his arms like out to the side a little.
Yeah, I can see it exactly.
Well, no, he has his Crichton walk, right, where he's like pigeon-toed.
Yeah. And Crichton was serving on a ship full of dead people, and then they took him off and were like, "Do you want to serve on a ship full of fucked up live people?" And that's our Red Dwarf crew. And we're talking about Camille, which Holly. Is like I said, and Holly, of course, the computer, the woman in the show, or no, Holly's the guy. What's the woman computer? There's two computer voices.
No, it is Holly at this point, but they became like a female avatar for this series and next. So series 4 and 5.
That's what
it's it's a Lady Holly, but it's still just Holly.
Right.
And then after series 5 is when they lose Red Dwarf, and when they get it back, it's back to
Guy Holly.
Back to the guy. Yeah.
Right. This is the thing about Red Dwarf. Before we dive right into Camille quickly, I love when Red Dwarf takes place on the Red Dwarf. Like the ship is like the center of all the good jokes.
Mm-hmm.
This episode nails that. It's entirely on the ship. After series 8, they would do the like comeback movie, the comeback season, and that was where my binge stopped. Was we hit like series X, and it was like that's the I know Earth. There's. Yeah, Back to Earth. And I thought that one was charming.
There's a numbering issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that one was like charming
Back to Earth,
and had
its
jokes.
Series X. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But then there was one more after that where they were back on a Red Dwarf, but it like looked too good, and I don't remember if that one was funny. That's where I stopped. Was the return season. So I just felt like as soon as they got off it, like I didn't care anymore. And then because it just works so well, it's a wonderful set, and they improved the sets in series 4 from what I remember, because it's dinky but it doesn't feel dinky.
So series 4 behind the scenes, they were filming the first 3 at BBC Manchester, and then that place was being renovated, so they got moved to London. So they were all like on a real studio set, while the other one's being rebuilt. So in the commentary they talk about like, we felt so fancy, we felt like a real show. We weren't like banished to the north, like up to Manchester. So they felt like they made it. So yeah, I mean, I have just as a quick throwaway for that note, because they were in a different place. They're what's his name? There's like the guy who's like the unofficial extra dwarf, Tony Hawks. He's the one who does like the waiter and the better than life guy and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
But he was the warm up. Yeah, he was the warm up comedian for the audience, but he wasn't available in London. So he wasn't available in London for this. He comes back later as Caligula in the Wax Droid episode, but because he wasn't available, they had like different stand-up comedians in London, and on this season, a young Eddie Izzard was the warm up for Red Dwarf.
No kidding.
Which I'm like, how did Eddie never come back for the show? It's kind of crazy. It's just funny because like, the fact. Well, it was the factoid. It was like in the booklet that said it for my DVD. It was like, and this is whenever Eddie still wore trousers, and I was like, they had no idea what they were talking for Eddie in 2004.
Yeah, right. I think Eddie just like goes by she/her pronouns nowadays, right? Like,
well, I think that what they said was that every day they wake up and they will decide on who they feel like that day. I think
I love that,
something like that. Yeah, they're very, very fluid about it.
I aspire to be like that. I don't know about ACC's politics, to be clear, but I know that about them, and I think that's fantastic. Camille. This episode was written by the crew, Rob Grant, Doug Naylor. They wrote almost all of the show, and it aired February 14th, 1991, Valentine's Day. Oh,
yeah,
33 years ago.
It wasn't supposed to air. It wasn't supposed to air.
Yeah, can you tell the kids this trivia? Tell the folks.
Yeah. So the episode was originally wasn't supposed to air first, but it got moved whenever Meltdown, that Wax Droid episode I was mentioning, was held back because it had a war story, and they didn't want to air it during the Gulf War, like H.W. Bush's Gulf War. So they moved it up, but then they were also like, "Hey, let's also put Camille on Valentine's Day," which I'm like, "That's perfect."
It's an episode about love.
Yeah, that was yeah. And then the Gulf would be between each other. Oh.
What would you do? You want to attempt to improvise? Actually, I have a summary, but I want to see if you can improvise a summary for this episode.
For the whole episode, okay. So, Crichton is it has so it starts off with Crichton is trying to learn how to lie. He's trying to figure out what an apple and an orange and a banana is. But then he's not able to because of he's got the problem that he's programmed not to. He's able to lie for a little bit, but whenever the cat shows up, we get a really good recreation of what is it? What's my fruit?
Yeah. What's my fruit? We should audition for what's. Yeah.
It's a banana. Yeah, it's a banana. Orange. Orange. I can't do it. I can't get that high, but yeah, it's so good. But enough of the programming kicks in that whenever he's on a mission with Rimmer, they get a distress call of a planet that's about to be destroyed. And even though Rimmer says not to do it, Crichton flies down and saves Camille, who is a female android, the same model as him, with an aromatic WD-40 that seduces him. But,
what is that fragrance? It smells divine.
What is that? WD-40. So yeah. But then he rescues her, and then when she finds out that there's other crew members, she's hesitant, but he's like, no, you gotta get out, you're gonna die. They get back to the ship, and that's when we find out that Camille is a chameleon, in that she's a Gelf, a genetically engineered life form that is designed to look like the optimal mate, not unlike a Star Trek original series episode, The Man Trap.
Good app.
Yeah, or I mentioned to you as well as I think it's The Gift. Is that what's it called? The one with Famke Janssen there of Next Gen, where it's like the ultimate mate.
Is it The Gift? I know the one you're talking. We talked about.
I might be mixing up the episode name of it, but yeah, the one with Famke Janssen. But in this case, we find out that Camille is
perfect
not
mate.
The perfect mate. Perfect mate. The perfect mate. So we go. So yeah. So Camille looks like an android to Crichton. To Lister, she looks like Kaczynski. Camille is how it's credited, but a biker girl.
She was supposed to be Christine Kaczynski, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah, they couldn't work it out. And then for the cat, he just looks like the cat. He's like, obviously, the cat's just into himself so much that he would fantasize about himself. I love whenever Camille's leaving and they're saying sorry to everybody, and the cat's just like heartbreaker. Like it's so. He's so bitter. Oh. He's so bitter. He doesn't even understand what's happening. But before that happens, Crichton admits that he doesn't mind that she is actually a green blob with a big eye. That he just loved her for who she was. So they go on some dates. They watch Casablanca together. They fly around and do spinning maneuvers to romantic music. And then that's while they're having dinner at Parrot's restaurant in the Red Dwarf, that her genetically engineered life form spouse shows up. And Crichton is forced to lie to convince Camille that she should go with her designated spouse. And he did learn to lie after all, and he did it to protect her. And it's just like Casablanca, even to the point where the episode ends with Crichton saying, "We'll always have parrots." Which, whenever I asked you to do this episode, I just were like, "Oh, it's the We'll Always Have Parrots episode," because I didn't remember it was called Camille.
Right. Yeah, but, it's not a memorable.
But you knew what I meant right away. Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, that's what happens in this episode. That's the quick and dirty of it. But there's a whole arc for Crichton. Dave and the cat talk about Hammy the hamster for a little bit. Rimmer's there, but he doesn't really.
Rimmer's like barely in this episode.
Yeah. And he's like, I think his funniest line is just like when he sees Camille's holographic version of him. He's like, "You look just like my cousin."
Yeah, I think so.
Which I'm like, just after I sent you a clip of Rimmer's into cousins clip. So there's a whole thing there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like your note. I like your note that she wanted. What did you say about the holographic Camille?
Leather jacket wearing lesbian from Liverpool. Sorry, yeah, you're now reading that. I can sometimes get a little bit horned up in my notes, and that's why I don't say these things out loud.
I will bait you into it. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
You said, yeah, it's holographic Camille wants to touch his hard light, which made me laugh.
Because I remember that being a thing, right? That Rimmer like didn't
that
have
comes
hard
later,
light.
yeah. Well, that would have been
That's
the first thing. It was like, I mean, you know, you can't dissect logic in a Red Dwarf episode, but it was like, well, she's a hologram. How can she be on the ship, right? Like, they can only run one hologram at a time.
Right. They break their own rules constantly. It's fine.
Sure. Yeah. It isn't. It's not hard science by any imagine.
I think that the cold open to this, or not cold. It's not a cold open, but the opening to this episode where Lister is trying to teach Crichton how to lie and cheat is the funniest like single gag scene in Red Dwarf. Like, it's just by itself. It's so memorable, and it's so like it's characterful too, because you have Dave being like you need to be a piece of shit. You need to learn how to lie. And you have Crichton, this sweet little angel man who's like,
it's a survival skill.
Exactly. He's like, what is that? That's a banana. What is it? It's a banana. And then he's like, it's a And I just love the way Robert Llewellyn does the like robot not functioning, or he's like, it's a
stalling. Yeah.
That's like, this is a big reason why like Magellan and I get along well, is he does a lot of like vocal things that are just funny naturally, like vocal sounds. And I giggle at things like this easily. I'm like, it's so easy to make me laugh. And so whenever Llewellyn does the like, I just like bowl over laughing. And then at the end when he's like, all right, your ultimate test is you need to be able to tell Rimmer that he's a smeghead. And he just can't get the words out properly. So he's like, he finally says it to Lister. And then he's like, all right, now do it to actual Rimmer. He's here. And he's like, sir, you're a smee. He. A smee. And I remember
in the commentary, Robert Llewellyn saying like it's like by far the number one thing that people ask him to autograph on photos of himself is like, can you autograph this smee? And he's like, it takes the longest because it's so many smee. Like, he's like, I'm gonna cover the photo. Yeah,
in ease.
Yeah, it resonates with you. Yeah.
Yeah, my coworker would always quote that. She quoted that one at me before I knew the context of it, and I was like, she's like, someday you'll get this. And then we finally got to this episode, and I was like, oh. Crichton also says an incredible line, spin my nipple nuts and send me to Alaska, which is just a top tenor for him. I forgot the bit of this one, so I was like, oh, this is the one with Girl Crichton, because isn't that his wife in real life? Or they were dating at the time?
It's his girlfriend at the time, yeah. Yeah, they got married they're girlfriends at the time. They got married, and then they had 2 kids. And he talks about how, whenever later on his kids watched this episode, and then he saw one of his kids crying, and like, why are you crying? It's like, aww, Mom turned into a slime. like, and I was like, yeah, they would, watch that a little too early if it's your mom turning into a slug, and then you're like worried that your mom's been a slug this whole time. Am I half slug, Mom? Yeah.
And then Craig Charles is also dating the woman who was Kachansky bought in this.
Yes. Yeah, which was, again, it was going to be like someone who looked like Kachansky, but then that actress didn't work out, and they were going to show like Kachansky footage, but then again they couldn't clear it, I guess, for some reason. So it was the kind of a last minute where they got her to come in and redo the scene as what's quote as credited as Kachansky Camille. But he's actually not even in the scene with her. Like they spliced it together. Like they're never in the same shot together.
Oh, don't say that. Now it breaks the magic of that for me.
No, it's pretty good. It's all. I mean, I will say the cat wasn't in the same shot with the cat himself. So there's still magic there. But I thought it was. I mean, I presume, I don't know how long that relationship lasted, but we're not there anymore. I wanted to ask was like when you go to Parrots, because it's like a restaurant, it's like, is it just food mats, or like I was imagining like the Scudders going around like serving drinks and stuff like that, because they make the Scudders do everything. I love that idea. Just like watching, like, because like they're so bad at everything. Like I'm trying to like shake up like a martini or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be a mess.
I was trying to look up.
I have another question.
The Parents. Okay, go ahead.
Parents. I have a question for you. Okay, it's a romantic question. Okay. marry, boff, kill, Lister, Crichton, or the cat.
Whoa. Huge.
And then you can't choose Rimmer because he's a hologram. He's just going to be cuckold over in the corner with what you chose.
Yeah, he's still soft light, so you can't even like do anything.
He's still soft light, but he's like he can't leave. He's just going to be like separate. Yeah, so marry, boff, kill, Lister, Crichton, or the cat.
I think
I've already confessed. You already confessed some Crichton love, but
yeah, I think it's marry, Crichton, boff, cat, and then kill Lister. I like Lister. I
kill
think
the last
he's charming.
Human.
Right, kill the last human. Oops.
I think I kill the cat. I don't think he wouldn't be good marriage material, and he's probably a selfish lover.
That's actually true. That's a really good point. I just think Lister would be a lazy. Right? Like Lister is like sorry, because I have Simpsons on the brain. He's like if Homer Simpson was 20 or however old he is in this show.
No, I think of like, because you think of like other episodes with Lister, he's like remembering the girl that got away, and he knows he made a mistake, but he was like good to her, and like and then he gave that memory to Rimmer, and it was all like Rimmer even describes it as like I was so in love, and then I started getting, like making excuses and being afraid of and stuff like that. Right. So I think for it's you boff Lister, and then you do marry Crichton because like he's the perfect like house husband, So yeah, but yeah,
I love it. No, they're all very dateable. I just don't like.
Yeah,
that's why I think the reason this episode is good is I don't like. I've had Rimmer frustrating sometimes. I think he's amazing with Lister. I think they're like so perfect. But often I was just like, okay, this is a Rimmer plot, and I don't really care. Like he's gonna be annoying. He's gonna fail at everything.
A Rimmer-centric episode, yeah.
Yeah, I usually don't like a Rimmer-centric episode, so this is like perfect peak Dwarf ensemble for me at least.
Fair.
And I enjoy the Pleasure Golf reveal, like the way it's obviously clearly a ton of sleight of hand, like changing the actor from shot, the actress from shot to shot, and the joke being like the comical misunderstanding. Like, who are you talking to? Why? How did you do that trick where you said something and he heard something else? Like, what's your trick there? And the slow realization of like, oh, and not only that, but like this is something I like about Red Dwarf is like. The characters are not mean to outside forces. They're just like, oh, that's weird. And for Crichton to be like, I still kind of want to date the slime monster, Pleasure Golf. And then she's like, no, but I have a lover. And then and they kind of pull the wool over your eyes or remove the wool. And they're like, it's a Casablanca thing. And you're like, that's really funny. Because in the first like 5 minutes of the episode, doesn't Lister mention like how he's making Crichton watch movies? And I think he even brings up Casablanca. And it's like,
Yeah. Well, Crichton brings it up saying like, "Oh, Mr. Lister's showed it to me a number of times or something like that."
Yeah.
But it's like it's funny because I can't remember if it was series 1 or series 2, but it was like they had turned the ship around and they were they're like intercepting the mail packages that have been following them for 2 million years.
Yes.
And they're like, "Oh, look, it's the new remake of Casablanca," and he's like. Mm-hmm. He says something along the lines of like, "Oh, I can't believe they were gonna remake that again." And then he mentions like this version was the definitive version, but it was like a remake of it itself. Like I can't remember what the casting was. It was very British actors that I didn't recognize, but the idea is like he might not have been showing him the Casablanca that we know. Like it's like the remake from like 2050 that hasn't yet been made.
Exactly right. There's no way they're watching the old Casablanca.
Well, again, in the commentary, or in the interviews, I think it was Doug Naylor, one of the creators, saying like if we tried to license any footage from Casablanca, we wouldn't have any money left for the rest of the season. I'm like, yeah, I believe that. Well, they talk about like it looks like a sci-fi sitcom because they don't spend a lot of money on it. Like it was actually like it always came under budget, and that was one of the reasons why we got so many seasons because they didn't spend a lot.
Well, and they put the budget in the right places, like costuming and basic, like just having the right couple of sets and reusing those sets forever. Perfect. This show is like very economical with that.
Well, the first 3 seasons, the way you see it now, because the VHSs we had back in the day had the original special effects, which were pretty 80s. Only later on did they go back and clean it up and put in like some CG and stuff like that. So these are still the model shots, at least the episode I watch, the episodes we're watching right now, but. Like
the exterior
stuff with CG. Yeah, they clean it up and they touch up the models and stuff, but there's also like some CG stuff they added. It's a little it's a little Star Wars George Lucas re-editing a little bit, but not egregious.
That was something I really also didn't love about the new season, was that it looked good. Like the exteriors were like not model. Were they still models, or are they just full CG? I don't remember.
After series 6, not 6. Series 6 is models. Series 7 and 8 are CG. But there's like it's kind of like a transition season, I think. Yeah.
Is there a season where they spend maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe I'm only remembering 1 or 2 episodes where they spend a lot of it on like a prison planet or something? Is that a Red Dwarf thing?
Whenever they've yes and no. So your memory's mixed up, but in that they find the way back to the Red Dwarf, and then they use I think it's Crichton's nanites they stole the Red Dwarf, and whenever they finally intercept it, they had stripped it down, so they made them reprogram and they rebuilt the Red Dwarf. Because they land on a planet and they think it's a bunch of dust storm, but it's all the nanites have broken down the Red Dwarf. So it rebuilds the Red Dwarf plus the crew, and then they try to do some stuff because they're not used to having a command structure, and they get caught, so they get sent to the prison on the new Red Dwarf, and that's what the whole season 8.
Yes,
season 9, something like that. The last of like what I would say is like the golden like block of show is them basically being like prisoners on it. Yeah, they're like the Canary Division where they have yellow suits and they go on suicide missions.
Yeah. Okay, you're bringing back memories now. God, there's so much Red Dwarf in my brain, like it's up there. It's just not accessible.
Yeah, we're reprogramming you 1 episode at a time. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is the next initiative. No, just to be clear, it's not. I'm just kidding. We're doing a funny gag here. I also watched this like in the last 4 years. The Simpsons initiative started in like 2014. I had to basically rewatch it, seasons 1 and 2, to get back into it. Other notes that you have, Pat? Other things you want to talk about with
Camille? What's My Fruit feels like a game that you would have on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. If you've seen any of that, they would like Sean Locke would have figured that one out. I do generally think that like I know it's his future wife, but like they generally have like a really cute chemistry, and it's like pretty difficult with having a shoot eraser for a head, between the two of them. Like, I generally believe it. It's really nice. What other notes?
Does it describe it as that in this episode?
I can't remember exactly. It's not this episode, but that's like the I think it's whenever in next season, it's this season, the DNA where he gets turned into a human, and he like describes as like, oh, finally I have a real face, not the like chewed eraser,
right?
Eraser head or something like that. Yeah, so I think it's next episode.
Okay.
I'll mention that I've watched Casablanca and I actually didn't really like it. I know. It's mostly I felt underwhelmed about it, in that I've seen so many things borrowed and enhanced or just changed about what Casablanca did that I've just seen it done better. And it's just like I wasn't like I wasn't like horribly disappointed, but I think sometimes you watch older movies and you're like, wow, that like no one's touched it, no one's done it better than that. But I kind of felt like Casablanca has been done, like It's a Wonderful Life, like that one's been imitated so many times, but that original is just like so good. Like as an example of an old movie that's been remade, holding up against all the remakes. But Casablanca. So I mean, I tortured you before with DMs where I said, oh, let's have a remake starring Lin-Manuel Miranda.
God, cursed idea, Pat. Really cursed.
I spoke it out loud, and it's now been willed into the ether.
Golly.
And I guess my last note that I have about the episode is that the hammy hamster, which is just so not connected to the story. It's just the cat and Lister watching Hammy the hamster. Which, do you know what that is? Did you watch that?
No, I looked it up though, right? It's a real Australian like cartoon or something.
Well, the one I watched was it's what I watched was like an actual hamster on like basically like it looked like the scale of an HL model train set, and they would just like have a narrator be like, Hammy the hamster was on his way to the bank,
Yeah.
And it was just, but it was like character puppets, but they used a real hamster and stuff. But apparently that whole scene was they filmed that it was cut from the episode because they're like, this has nothing to do with Camille or anything else. Mm-hmm. But then Craig Charles and Danny John really, really liked it. And they said it was kind of like this season's version of the Wilma Flintstone conversation they had last season. So they kind of pushed it. They found the space for it, so they put it back in. But it's like, I liked it because you talk about like the world building, and it's like, there's only the four of them at this point, and what else do they have to do is just kind of sit around and like argue about like useless things or have conversations about things that don't matter. Like, it's kind of the less offensive version of It's Always Sunny, where they're like just four people just hanging out or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because you're a million years in space and you got nothing better to do than watch every episode of Hammy the Hamster or the Flintstones, or like as they run into the mail drones, they get like more TV shows. I think that's all you would do. They're in the pandemic forever.
You're exactly. What if you were? That is a good point. Like, thinking of, I never thought about Red Dwarf as a COVID show, but it kind of is. Like, these.
I mean, for you it was
right. No, yeah. I mean, because you don't think about that when you're in the middle of it. You think about it afterwards, right? Like, I guess watching like The Leftovers and The Prisoner during COVID, I was like, oh God, these are so relevant. And now I'm like, now I think of it more so. But also, I mentioned this to somebody.
Going back and listening to leftover episodes of the chats, and I was like, oh my God, this is a time capsule of a time capsule.
God, I love that season of the pod, and I love that show. And I just recently met somebody who is a big Leftovers fan. So I'm just saying, if you're a Leftovers fan, then you are cool to me. That's all I have.
Put it on your business card.
Honestly, I wish I could just put on my dating apps. Like, you must like the. I don't want to be snobby like that, but it does. Like, sincerely, add. Like,
no, but it would be the. The joke is, I'm not a Leftovers fan, but I mean that in the food wise, and my girlfriend gets so mad at me because she'll make meals, and then it's like, if there's leftovers in the fridge, I'm like, can I just make craft dinner instead? I don't know what it is. I just don't deal with reheated food as well.
Some food doesn't heat well. Like, fish almost never heats well, and people are always like, "No, you're doing it wrong." It's like, no. I had haddock this week, and I reheated it. It was so good when I had it, and then I reheated it for lunch. It tasted like.
But when you reheated it, how did you reheat it? Like,
I'm sorry, no, I didn't reheat it. I actually just let it get to room temperature.
Oh, okay.
Like, naturally,
so that's
and
a bit better. Yeah.
Because I know if you reheated it, it smells bad and it dries out a lot.
I think the only option for reheating fish is in a pan. I think that's the only viable way, because you can stop it from drying out with the right oils or the right.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Like, I wouldn't put it in the oven because that'll just dry, or microwave. It'll just destroy your microwave.
Yeah, air fryer maybe.
Yeah, clean it well.
I've been trying to use my roommate's air fryer recently, and. It gets so messy so fast. I used baking soda and white vinegar on it though, and it was like a religious cleanse. It went from 100 to 0.
Oh, okay.
It was awesome. So high shout out. My chatsum today is baking soda and white vinegar to clean your air fryer out. Pour those in some boiling water
for reheating things. If you have coconut oil, that's the best.
In the pan.
It doesn't really alter the taste. Yeah, it doesn't alter the taste of it like I think olive oil does or something else. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Pat, I wanted to ask you romantic questions really quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
How did you meet your girlfriend?
So I had a friend from college who invited me to bar trivia, and I was doing until the pandemic. I did trivia every Thursday night for about, I guess, 7, 8 years. But halfway through that, amongst the table of the people, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring this girl who I work with, somebody else at the table. I'm gonna bring somebody else from work who knows a lot of useless knowledge as much as we do." And then that's how I met my girlfriend. Friend of a friend brought the trivia, and I impressed her with Arrested Development references that I would always force in the conversations. Well, I think I might be remembering it wrong, but I think this is back. I might have looked at her Facebook profile and I saw Arrested Development, and I'm like, okay, I'll drop that knowledge out there. And then I think eventually we started hanging out afterwards. We finished trivia, go to this barcade that sold pierogies and pinball as they advertise. Then we went oh yeah, it's great. Oh, it's so good. It's called House of Targ. Shout out to House of Targ. It's in a basement across from my favorite independent movie theater called the Mayfair, and that's where we would hang out for all the times. But we've been together for almost 8 years.
Wow.
Living together for about 5, or I guess more closer to 6. Yeah, then we have a kitty cat. That's our little fur baby. I said no babies on the first date, but I brought a cat with me, so she had to accept him too. But that's how we met, and that's how we are together. Our first date was Independence Day of Resurgence, and it was hilariously bad, but we both were entertained by how bad it was, so that was another chemistry check.
That's so sweet. It shows to show, by the way, that if you're a little weird and you have a lot of dumb references in your brain, then girls will like you.
Well, you got to know when it's working. I think that's the advice I give. Because I've had that argument with people with what's the difference between a geek and a nerd. And I'm not putting down nerds, but how I look at it is a nerd is someone who talks a lot and doesn't realize they're talking too much. A geek is someone who just talks passionately about what they're geeking out about.
Interesting.
But they can check and balance it, I think. So you could be a music geek and you find another music geek, and you guys are just exchange LPs until you exchange STDs. But so bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just got it.
Well, I wanted to mention because I don't know what this is, just what bonus chats, I think is how you're going to label it. Because it's like a quick little bonus pod, but it's on a Valentine's Day. So I was going to say we call it a Q pod, as in Cupid, with the letter Q.
CUPOD.
Bonus Q pod.
This is the beautiful thing about the brothers at Infinite Love, is that you guys just have infinite energy and ability to make these references that Michelle and I will often be like, "Whoo, for sheesh," or we laugh at it, but it's I get them. I just can't. It's kind of you guys are the human incarnation of The Simpsons season 4, where it's how do you make so many of these? You always have one in the tank, and it's impressive. I'm being sincere. I love to be sincere. Yes. It's impressive, and I know that's a great point you made about the difference between nerds and geeks is self-awareness, basically.
Yes,
and I consider myself to be sometimes hyper self-aware, where I'm am I talking too much? Am I annoying somebody? So I go the other way around and often become a people pleaser, which has its own set of fun problems. But I guess I'd consider myself, based on your definition,
people geek.
More a geek. Oh wow! See, this is their response. Is oh wow.
So this is Brothers at Infinite Lore. Twin brother. We're going back to kindergarten here, and the teacher, I think it's a parent teacher or some kind of event like that, where they're talking to my parents, and the teacher's we're concerned that the brothers, we'll just say the brothers at Infinite nap time, their speech development isn't progressing as quickly as the other children, and we're worried about it. So we would suggest that you go to a speech therapist for the boys. And then as the story goes, we had a meeting with the speech therapist, and then the speech therapist came back. It was there is actually no problem. In fact, they're actually more advanced than everybody else in the classroom, because my brother and I could talk to each other so fast, because we've been talking to each other since we shared the same crib, that our vocabulary and speed at which we talk was throwing off our teachers. They thought we were speaking gibberish, but we were actually speaking so fast. It was the therapist was you could record them and play it back, and it's there. They're just saying it so fast that us old adults can't keep up.
We can't keep up.
And then we got to pulp culture reference level, and it was probably when we got to around 6 or 7, where we got Ghostbusters and Goonies and all the VHSs that we watched over and over again, like Red Dwarf, and nobody else had a chance to ever, get a word in. So now we share that into the Chats Discord, because we were always making bits and making references and improvising. It was just what we did since the crib. Boys from the crib.
Oh my god! So I just realized I've never heard you and Nick at the same time, which is wild. In the same room.
I mean, we make the joke that we would like to do a podcast together, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So it would just be two people.
It's entirely possible.
two people talking over each other, like just not, never like pausing to let the others speak. Like,
right.
I have to remember when I'm talking, especially whenever it's like with you and Magellan, I feel bad because I'll speak up because I'm excited. And then I realize I stepped over someone, and I'm like, I'm sorry. And Magellan's usually like, oh no, it's okay, you go ahead, because you being
That's
a good
so
host.
Beautiful.
But Nick and I, we don't have that. We don't bother with that for each other.
Right. You just keep
going
over each other. Yeah.
Yeah. We turn off politeness. We already know the non-aggression treatment is gone.
Well, the war continues, and I'm happy to hear it. I have one more quickie for you. I know you have to go soon.
Yeah.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
No.
Ooh. Pat, I feel like from what I'm understanding about you, you might be a bit of a realist, or like not a pessimist. Like, do you consider yourself to be that way?
They say, like, if you have a glass that's half full or half empty, if I see a glass that's 50% of liquid, I was like, who drank half my water?
so you're a pessimist. You're a bit of a pessimist.
I'm an accusatory pessimist. I don't think I've ever encountered love at first sight. I believe in chemistry, and I've felt that in my life multiple times. Like, you meet someone, you have a genuine connection. But I also know that things go 90 degrees whenever you start talking to each other, and they don't get your Arrested Development references. But I don't believe in love at first sight. I believe in chemical attraction, mechanical attraction, in that, like, you can just be like, you can lock onto somebody and they can lock onto you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But is it love? I don't go there with that. Not that quickly. Yeah.
You saw Past Lives, right?
Yeah. I think I even told you, like, you should see it, and then I know that you said somebody else told you that you should see it, but I thought it was great. Yeah. But I also am like the type that, like, this is pretty early on dating my girlfriend. We went and saw La La Land. And whenever we get to see the, like, what could have been segment of that, and we're in a dark theater, and I'm with a girl who I haven't been dating for very long, and I am bawling my eyes out.
Oh my God!
Absolutely bawling my eyes out, because, like, you always have the what ifs and stuff like that. Like, that's the other side of love at first sight is as the love of what could have been. Like, at any level of relationship I've had, like, it could have been one that was disastrous, and you're glad that it's over, but as soon as you start thinking about what ifs, then it can touch a nerve, right? But Past Lives, that's a beautiful movie. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, it hit hard. I don't. It's not going to win Best Picture, but it's so far of the Best Picture noms, it's my favorite, because I'm a sap.
2023 of the noms, 2023. I've seen them all but one right now. I haven't seen Zone of Interest yet.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite maybe my favorite is The Holdovers, but it's either that, or I think it more likely to win that is my favorite would be Poor Things, but I don't think Poor Things will win.
No way.
Poor Things is too weird to win.
I am so glad Yorgos Lanthimos is still making movies. Ever since I saw Dogtooth and that movie rearranged my brain chemistry, I'm like, you know what, Yorgos, you should make weird movies.
I have not seen Dogtooth.
Oh my God, it's so weird.
But I've seen The Lobster and The Favorite. Yeah,
I didn't see The Favorite. I did a podcast about The Lobster back in 2016 that you can't listen to anymore, but I did do it. Actually, you could listen to it if you know where to look. I'm just not going to plug it. Anyways,
you can only listen to it if you find a spouse.
Bingo.
Otherwise, you turn into a therapist. What's the technical term for a lobster? It ends with pod, doesn't it?
An arthropod.
Arthropod, yeah. Because you're like, it can't hear the pod anymore, and I was like, well, you have to turn into an arthropod.
An arthropod. Yeah. We should do an arthropod and call it Arthur.
Hey, it's Arthur Pod.
Yeah. We'll do one about the TV show Arthur. Perfect.
But you always have to slag off Jordan Peterson every episode.
So I'm not in a committed relationship right now, but quickly to answer the questions, how did I meet my current person? We've been on one date. I don't even consider us 3 dating yet, but we met on an app. And do I believe in love at first sight? No, I definitely don't. But I think that I believe in chemistry at first sight. I believe in attraction, but like, everything that's fun to me about love and romance and dating, like, happens over time. It's not instantaneous. And I think you can see that in a lot of movies and TV, that, like, it doesn't work like that for most people. I believe it. Maybe it happens to some people and they can convince themselves that it was immediate, but like it just doesn't. I don't think it'll happen for me ever.
I think you know, I think you know a bit about this, but it's like how memories are formed by like neurons making new connections. And I do think a big element, not just like a chemical reaction, but it is like you are building somehow like, you know, a wireless connection, building pathways between two people. And you build that, like you look at, if you watch, I mean, my other suggestion, if it wasn't to watch Red Dwarf, it was just to rewatch Harry Met Sally with you. And all the interviews. God. All the interviews with the older couples, and it's
the best part of the movie. Best part of the movie.
It is the best part of the movie. Yeah, when you see the old people, and I'm like, I'll have what she's having. That's when I say that. But hubba. Yeah.
It all comes back.
They have blended their thoughts so much, and I'm not. There's keep recurring jokes and references and memories that you build together, but it is like the link that you form. I'm not saying a psychic link, but I'm just saying like you have built patterns into your brain by being with someone for so long that I think that is the actual point of love in a lot of ways. I think it's like you're building yourself into the person you want to be, but the person you want to be is the person that's across from you. So it's,
wow, that's profound, Pat.
Sure, but I don't think I wrote the book on that. I think a lot of your grandparents, people out there, they'll tell you something similar, unless they just like bicker all the time because they got too close.
Yeah, I don't want to share too much because like I said, we're so early, but like we had a conversation about this stuff, and it was just like, what are you looking for out of this? And I kind of wanted to just be like, yeah, I want somebody to like make references with and like send memes to and be weird. Like I'm not. I understand a woman dating a guy. There's in 2024, there's this worry that I'm going to like push you to want to do things you don't want to. And I'm like, no. I'll do whatever you want. I just want to be able to be like, hey guys, you want to meet my girlfriend? And like, that's fun to me. And I'm not going to die if you're not into that. And I'm willing to compromise on so much. But what I request is that, we can just be with each other and become a little bit more like each other and help each other out, build each other up. That's all it is, baby.
Sometimes when you introduce your spouse to your friends, it's like Shark Tank, right? You're like, here's my sales pitch, and they're all sitting in the chairs. Your friends.
I have, like, yes, I have been there for that. Yeah, and I'm excited to do it if this one becomes serious.
What's your pitch? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've started it. At least some of them know. That's the thing. It's like you have the one or two that already know from date number one, like, oh, I want to date, and then the rest are like, so I met someone. Like the people that you don't actually hang out with that often, you tell them like, oh, I met someone. God, yeah. And I'm an oversharer, so sometimes I'll tell everybody on the first date, and then they're like, so what happened? And I'm like, it didn't go well. Because you just shouldn't tell people that early. She hasn't passed the test yet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. The added bonus, and I mean this in a loving way, the added bonus is whenever you bring your spouse to your family, and over time, your family likes them more than they like you a little.
Yeah.
I found the right one. Because
that is a good feeling.
Because you are the one that's been torturing your parents, your sister, and your brother with inane references for your whole life.
Whereas she gets to be reset to zero.
Normal. she's a normie. Right. Like she's like, I'm not gonna know what to say during the obscure Cullen family references. Like we have all these movies that like only my family has watched, and I show them to my girlfriend, and she's like, "What are the rules here?" Like I have my movie already picked out in my head for what my Patreon will be, and during the movie that I am thinking of, my girlfriend was like, "What are the rules?" And I just said, "There aren't any. Just go with it."
Are you like sanding paper, by the way? What's that squishing noise?
Oh, sorry. I was rubbing my hand across my mouse pad. It's my Babylon 5 game mat that Nick sent me, but I was rubbing my hand across it. I apologize.
It's okay. I'll clean it up for you. I'll make it nice and crispy sounding.
I feel like I don't know how long I was doing that for. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We'll work around it. This is a cash pod. Okay. It's a cash pod. Yeah. Anyways, Pat, where do you want to plug, rather? What would you like to plug?
So I was thinking about, because we're on Red Dwarf, so I think I mentioned it. So Blackadder, Mr. Bean,
Ooh.
Father Ted. If you have any Irish Catholic in your family, that is a great show. The creator of the show is kind of a monster, but the show is great. It's the same guy who created the IT Crowd, so if you know who that is.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. But this is a great show. It's got a really great cast. I always watch the Christmas episode. Faulty Towers. I'm just gonna say my plug is Britcoms. That's where I'm landing. What's your favorite Britcom? What do you have one?
Oh, Britcoms, like British comedies.
British sitcoms, yeah.
Best. I love the IT Crowd. That
yes.
IFC was brilliant for in like 2010 or whatever. They started airing episodes of the IT Crowd week to week, and it like deeply influenced me and a lot of other people in the United States who were like, "Oh my god, this is an amazing show."
Now you know how to talk about soccer.
Exactly. Does What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, he's having it off. What We Do in the Shadows. That is an American production.
You're right.
But so I don't know if I wouldn't count that as a Britcom, but that is an amazing show. The last season's coming up. Last season is next season.
I want to finish binging it. I stopped in the middle of season 3, and I'm also like, I don't want to be caught up because then I won't have any more.
Well, yeah. But honestly, there hasn't been a weak season, so if they go one season,
true.
even if it's middling, they'll have basically done like a perfect show.
I have one show I want to quickly finish after the Simpsons Meme Initiative, and then I might go back to WWDITS. But no, other good show, British shows. I like Spaced a lot. Spaced
that was the one that was actually originally what I was going to plug. I just couldn't remember. I spaced out.
Nice. Spaced is fantastic.
It's so good.
Red Dwarf is definitely a favorite. I think those are my big ones. I don't watch a lot of British television.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I feel like it would be up your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I liked like the pilot chats for Blackadder. I was like, oh yeah, I understand why people like Blackadder, and that's not even the best episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just looked up best British sitcoms, and I found a show called The Britos Empire, which has the guy who plays Rimmer as one of the main characters.
Oh, I don't know that one. The Britos.
It's a Brittas.
And there was a show that Ryan was really surprised / upset with me that I hadn't heard of.
Usually upset. It's Ryan. Usually upset.
The audacity that I had. I mean, it's like a show that it's like, I think it's like Yes Sir or Yes, I don't know, something like that. But it's like he shows up in Babylon 5. He was in the episode of Babylon 5. Please Sir, yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, he shows up in Babylon 5, and he was from that, and he was in Star Trek Enterprise.
Oh.
Well, just as like Malcolm Reed's father, so like just a smaller role. Gotcha. But still, he was like, Ryan being upset with me. You ever want a free like in Letterboxd reviews? Just make sure you include the words "yum yum," and then like Ryan is obliged to give your review.
He'll he'll like appear. He'll just like assemble his body in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I feel some YYE energy.
YYE energy doesn't make sense back because it's YYE.
I know. It was an ATM. It was like ATM machine. I knew it.
ATM machine. So that's what you got. What else?
I have a chai tea story.
Okay.
So
I have nowhere to be. You're the one with the out, my friend.
My whole team is running late, so by the looks of it, so it's okay.
Okay.
But so I worked at Starbucks, and they had this whole synergy with the Tazo tea and Oprah. Oprah designed a new flavor of Tazo spiced chai tea, and I would tell my regulars, like, hey, have you seen the photos for our new teas? And they're like, oh, no. I'm like, oh, yeah, if you go on the internet, there's lots of new tea photos all over the place.
New tea.
And you can even find new tea photos of Oprah. I'm like, really? Yeah. There's Oprah new tea photos on the internet.
Oh, like nudie?
Yes, like nudie photos.
Pat! You're a freaking sweetheart, so I'm gonna give you a pass, but holy crap, a pat pass, but holy crap.
I just like wordplay so much.
It's fun. That's why you like British sitcoms. It all comes back.
It does. Yeah, the one I sent you the other day was the egregious one. Yeah.
I'm not gonna burn a Chatsum because I have to still do a Chats episode this week, so I'm saving mine. And also this is not technically a main episode, but I wanted you to have one. So I will just say, keep listening to the Couch Madness if you're excited to hear more about what's gonna win this season and what we're gonna watch all of. It's looking a very tense matchups. That's true. Majel and I are gonna be recording episodes and at least one episode in person soon, which is awesome. And happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
Timing wise, when does Couch Madness end and then the season would start? What's that actually look like? Is that
there is an Airtable.
There's a timetable to this. Okay.
Yeah, Airtable is an app that website Majel and I use to schedule things and it's really good, and he does a really great job of putting the release calendar on there. Let me look.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to guess just based on how many episodes are left, but I feel like
we got to remember that there's going to be 2 more Trek Chats before it's over.
Right. Oh, sure.
And then we take a week off in the 3rd. So I think it's 14, 15, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, he didn't schedule out past the finale. Don't. It should be like late March, I think is when the show. Either late March.
Okay, I think I said April. That's what I was thinking. Okay. All right. So it's fast approaching. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, because there's
less and less. Yeah.
Well, there's Tick BSG, which is coming on Sunday. Then there's Fringe Death Note the following week. Then there's a Trek Chats. Then there's going to be SG1 Xena. Then there's going to be whatever wins versus whatever wins. And then there's the final. And then we have I think we're going to do a week off. And then we start the show.
So before we leave, I have one thing I would like to ask you.
Sure. Go ahead.
Since I said ASCII, will you 66 101 109 105 110? Which is ASCII for will you be mine?
Ooh, I will. Wait. How to say yes in ASCII.
Yeah, that'll be a lot easier.
Yes, I will. Absolutely. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Sarah, and to everyone out there. We love you. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.